Welcome to the rules of the game. Let's start by presenting our boulder. In this example, the climber can only use blue holes, the dark grey wooden volumes, and the structure of the wall. The wooden volumes can be used in any other boulder. It's always forbidden to catch the top of the wall and the roof. The space between the bolt and the hole is usable, as is the pinhole. The climber can use the empty T-nut with his feet, but not with his fingers. In this example, we are using boulder number 1, marked by a large white sticker with Q01 on it. You can also see the 4 Q01 starting tags, indicating the correct starting position with 4 mandatory points of contact. Once established correctly, the climber is allowed to move further to any other hole or volume. Those are the 4 holes we need to use as to start. This is the first zone hold, zone 1, and this is the second zone, zone 2. Finally, the top hold. For a start to be valid, the climber must establish himself or herself on the right starting position by respecting the 4 mandatory points of contact. The climber also has to wait for the judge to say OK, and if possible make eye contact with him or her. Now, what could go wrong? In this example, the climber chooses deliberately to use only 3 holes instead of 4. As such, he doesn't respect the 4 points of contact. The start is then invalid. In this situation, the climber seems to start correctly, but his foot touches the floor. This invalidates the start. In this case, the climber does not wait for the judge's approval before moving on. Start is then invalid. A boulder can start in many different ways. In this case, we only have 3 holes for 4 points of contact. The classical approach here is to have 2 hands on 1 hole. It's also possible to approach that start another way. The only mandatory thing is to have 4 points of contact. Here is a valid, but much harder, variation. In this case, we only have 2 holes to start. We find 3 tags on 1 hole and the 4th one on another hole. You could also find a start with 2 tags on 2 holes. In our case, the start can be valid as such. In this case, we have the 4 tags on only 1 hole. Here, the climber decides to hang by the 4 points of contact. In other cases, he could be crouching on a very big hole before standing up. Many other variations are possible. The climber comes to you and gives you his or her score sheet. You put the paper at the back of the pile and call the climbers in order. Don't forget to call the climber on deck. If you have Julia as the first climber and Gavin right after, you call out, "Julia, you're up, Gavin, you're on deck." So Gavin has time to prepare. When a climber fails a start, it's up to you to have him or her start again or put back at the end of the line, depending on how many people are waiting. But you should write down all attempts, no matter what. A failed start is an attempt. To validate a zone hold, the climber should grab it in a controlled fashion. One hand is sufficient. The climber doesn't need to control the zone with both hands. This is the climber's first go in the boulder. He starts correctly but fails to control zone 1. It's an attempt and you score it as follows in the right line and column. Draw one cross in the first column of Q01. This is the climber's second go in the boulder. He gets to zone 1 and controls it, but will fall afterwards. You score it as follows. Write Z1 in the second column of Q01. This is the climber's fifth go in the boulder. He will control zone 2. On attempt 3 and 4, he didn't reach zone 2, but reached zone 1 again. You score it as follows. Write Z2 in the fifth column of Q01. As you can see, for attempt 3 and 4, you put crosses. You do not write Z1 again, even if your climber reaches it every time. Nor will you do for Z2 subsequently. For a top to be valid, the climber needs to grab or touch the final hold with both hands in a controlled fashion. Both hands have to be in contact with the hold. One hand over the other is not enough. The climber's body shall be quite steady, and the climber has to wait for the judge to approve by saying OK. Eye contact is even better. In this case, the climber tops the boulder on attempt 9. You score it as such and sign your name in the signature column. For clarity of the scoring, it is extremely important to sign once the top is achieved. You do not need to sign for zones. Now, what could go wrong with the top? In that case, the climber only has one hand on the top hold and falls before matching. Top is invalid. In that case, the climber touches the hold with the second hand but pops out. Control is not achieved. Top is invalid. Here we can see the climber doing a proper ascent of the boulder. In this case, there is a blue hold on the volume, indicated by the starting tag placed just underneath the hold. It means that the climber has to establish contact on that hold to validate the start. In that case, there isn't any blue hold on the volume, but there is a starting tag. It means that the climber has to use the volume to establish himself on the correct starting position, but there is no specific placement on the volume. The climber may use the volume as desired. Younger categories of climbers have extra holds as to avoid size-related problems. Under 11 category has extra holds that are boxed in tape. The tape's color may be of any color but red and black. Only U11 category and younger climbers can use those holds. U9, U7 and U5 categories climb with any feet, 3 feet. So they only follow the color code as for their hands, and they only need 2 hands in contact to validate the start. Red tape can be used to split the wall into separate sections, usually when 2 boulders of the same color are too close to each other. In that case, the climber has the right to go over the red tape and smear on the wall. but he cannot use the blue holes right of the red tape as they belong to another blue boulder. Black tape can be used to totally forbid a section of the wall. In that case, the black tape forbids the use of the left arête. When there is black tape, the climber cannot use anything besides the tape, hence not even smear on the wall. The hand or foot can go over the tape but not touch the wall and of course any other hole or volume. For any question in the heat of the competition, you can always reach out to the head setter or the president of the jury.